This is actually a story that I was really like wanting to get out because it came out just before I got called away on the family crisis. And like I even put out a post like saying here like this is important, like it's time sensitive. If you can read about this, go find other resources, write into your MP, etc. Write into the commission that's been set up. Do whatever you can. So some of you might already have some knowledge about this. On the 29th of January 2021, the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government announced a consultation on the increasing accessibility and provision of toilets for men and women. And whilst the consultation doesn't mention trans people at any point, Trans Twitter very quickly drew the connection between the consultation and the ongoing attempts by the Tory government to undermine trans rights, with people such as Lama Sophie and James Stephanie Sterling commenting on the situation. I've linked both of their threads there, and you can go check them out. So anyway, moving forward to the actual consultation itself. Hello, train. The closest the consultation actually comes to mentioning the impact this will have on the trans community is in quote, "The government wants to ensure dignity and respect for all. The Equality Act provides that sex, age, disability, and gender reassignment are protected characteristics." End quote. So far, so good, Gender reassignment under a UK legal definition is not on about medical reassignment. I just need to clarify that. This is something bigots have been arguing for a while. We covered previously a story with Jaguar Land Rover, I think it was, or Land Rover Jaguar, I don't know which way it is, where they were discriminating against a non-binary member of staff. When a non-binary member of staff took them to court over it, their defense was effectively, well, we can't be held accountable to the Equalities Act of 2010 since they're not going through medical reassignment, and that act only applies to gender reassignment, the implication here being that it was only medical reassignment. This is even though the Equalities Act states that it's gender reassignment, I believe physical or otherwise is the language it uses, so it notes that the physical, as in medical, is there, but everything else is also included. So that's your legal and your social transitioning as well. So like it's just a case of 2010, the language is very outdated, it's a cis-led government, they're not listening to what trans voices are like using as their own language. But even at the time, I actually went back and traced this back, there was confirmation that it wasn't just about medical transitioning either. They confirmed that at the time, so when it came to court with the Jaguar Land Rover case, they clarified that again, and yes, they were found to be in violation of the Equalities Act. So just to be clear, when it says gender reassignment, it is not just on about medical transition. Very long-winded explanation, but that I need to be clear because a lot of the transphobes in the UK like running around pretending otherwise. However, the consultation notification then follows with, quote, "This does not mean that gender-specific toilets should be replaced with gender-neutral toilets, but there should be balanced considerations of how the needs of all those with protected characteristics should be considered based on the mix of the population and customer demand." End quote. So it starts off with we realize the concerns some of you might be having right now, but we don't really care about that. Effectively forwarding the idea that bathroom access should be some sort of democratic process where the number of bathrooms should be more dependent on the distribution of the population. It's but that's the thing about that's the thing about gender-neutral toilets. Everyone can use them, and it just seems to totally miss that point. And there's a lot of bells ringing as I sort of read that out. Specifically as to what balanced considerations entails. This is a government that has again and again and again taken shots at the trans community chipped away various protections. Um, you know, there was the GRA reforms, which not the biggest thing. The only thing that actually changed was your pension, your birth certificate, marriage certificate, and tax forms. Those are the only things that changed. Um, that got turned into this massive big thing, and the government was doing flip all to clarify what the actual reforms would do, effectively just allowing the trans community to just take beating after beating from ignorant journalists and hacked news reporters. Um, then, of course, we had the recent High Court ruling, which just effectively banned puberty blockers for all under 16s, and all 16 and 17-year-olds are going to have to go through a court process, which, yes, they say that the NHS is going to cover, but this is the same NHS that the Tory government is currently gutting for everything that has a 3-year wait period for trans services, specifically trans youth services. So, there has been this constant attack on the trans community by the Tory government. So, the idea that it's going to be balanced, there is no trust there in the trans community. There was no trust with the collapse of the GRA reform, because I forgot to mention, the reform, once the consultation for that went through, and the vast majority of people, both trans and cis, supported the reforms, totally demedicalizing the process of, getting your gender recognition certificate. The government just said, oh, nobody actually cares about this, after they had dragged the trans community over the coals for years, which resulted in a investigation by another branch of the government into that failure. And the trans community, by this point, this is even before the High Court case on puberty blockers and everything, the trans people were just like, we don't trust you. You're the same government conducting the investigation that failed us in the first place. Why should we care what you have to say? It could all be a sham. Thankfully, in that case, unlike the GRA consultation, everything would be public and therefore more scrutinizable, but that doesn't necessarily mean much. I mean, Liz Truss, who has been at the center of a lot of this, has just gone full mask off and is replacing members of what was supposed to be an independent investigation committee with her cronies. The Tory government just doesn't care at this point. So the idea that we're supposed to just trust in what the Tories consider balanced considerations is ridiculous. This also, the whole discussion here erases the existence of trans men and AMAB MB folk with, quote, while men can then use both cubicles and urinals, women can only use the former. And women also need safe spaces given their particular health and sanitary needs. For example, women who are menstruating, pregnant, or at menopause may need to use the toilet more often, end quote. There is no consideration here for trans men or MB folk who were assigned male at birth. They're just completely erased from the conversation. I don't know if you'd like to speak on that a little bit, Levi. You are still connected. I was worried there for a second. You were being so quiet. I was worried you disconnected for a second.
I'm sorry. No, you just... When you start talking about British politics, it just goes over my head, because
I'm sorry.
I've never been to the UK. I try to keep up. I try and read, but it's a lot. So yeah. There's not really much to say. Of course, people like to forget that trans men exist.
That's the thing.
I suppose if I really wanted to do a deep dive, I could talk about how the concept of the group that is men tends to get boiled down to cis men and sometimes also to cis het white men, and it's just we don't have to think about men, they're all privileged, they don't have any diversity or any problems or anything. The idea that a man could be confined to using cubicles, or that a man could menstruate, or that a man could have any sort of uh, you know, extra needs that most people don't have. Just doesn't seem to occur to people.
And another thing, like a big issue here, like I've seen talked about, is the fact that like cis women are going to feel uncomfortable like dealing with their menstrual health in a bathroom that's shared by cis men. And it's like, well, for first of all, they already do at home with their partners, their sons, etc. Secondly, that's more of a problem with how we raise cis men. You know, this whole, I'm trying to think of the word here, taboo culture around menstruation, you know, tampons, pads, etc. You know, this whole giddiness that, oh, boys can't, you know, cis boys can't be comfortable discussing these things, therefore we need to separate the relationship classes, sort of thing. And it's like,
Mm.
rather than just like pretending that's okay, we could tackle it, you know.
Yeah.
We could make it so, you know, cis men are understanding of the natural processes that half of everyone on the flipping planet go through. Well, less because of course menopause, etc. But you get what I'm saying. Like,
Mm.
it's we have to segregate these things, hurting this population for the sensitivities of cis men. Um, you know, because that's the only thing standing in the way of that. And it doesn't have to be that way. Like, my mum didn't have a chance. As an autistic child who watched the same nature documentaries over and over again and started picking up similarities between other mammals and us, you know, she didn't stand a chance. I remember we went to the swimming pool, like the local arena place, which, by the way, this is like 2000, 2001. They had shared changing rooms. They
Oh my
didn't.
God.
They didn't have like this. This is how far back the trans conspiracy goes. The changing rooms were like they were just gender neutral because they had like changing cubicles. Like they had small ones for single people, and then they had the family-sized ones for families. But yes, anyway, like one time we went and she wasn't coming in the swimming pool. She just sat on the benches next to it because they had benches because often parents would like to sit around there. And me and my brother were like paddling at the side of the pool. And I was like very curious, why aren't you coming in? And she's like, oh, I'm having some women issues. I was like, oh, is that when you bleed? Just outright. Just outright. This is 6-year-old me just yelling this out in the swimming pool. Probably 7 or 8 actually, by the time it's probably 2001, 2002. But yeah, anyway, I was a little kid just yelling this out in the swimming pool, and then she just had the conversation with me. I was like, okay. And like, it's also like seeing the way that I'm glad I'm just glad for the coincidence of how things happened. The way that like my little sister has been shown that neither my father nor myself are like uncomfortable around this stuff because again she still thinks I'm a cis guy. One time we were camping, she was learning how to start fires using a flint and steel. We needed very fine like fibrous material to start it. Didn't have any cotton or anything like that. So what does my dad do? Oh, okay. Here's my stepmom's tampons. Pulls it apart, sort of thing. Turns out they are really effective fire starters. She was asking about this because she was a small kid at the time and she was curious like me. I've got my suspicions about neurodivergence there as well. So she was asking like a lot of detailed questions about this, and we were just both explaining it. And that's just the way it should be. There was no awkwardness about anything, and we could do that. And like, when cis guys ask, "Why is there a tampon machine in this bathroom?" Well, because trans men exist. Also, sorry, there's one point that I did want to touch on that I kind of forgot about for a moment. I'm sorry about my childhood. What's the word? It's like the daydream, but you go back in time. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Flashback? No.
Flash. It's kind of like a flashback. My flash telly. Sorry about like going back in time to my childhood there. But another thing is the way this article is worded makes it sound like gender-neutral bathrooms are the norm and like gendered bathrooms are going extinct. That is not the case. I was at university. I still don't know where any of the gender-neutral bathrooms are. I asked them for information about this. They never got back to me. They were going to create a new student union building, the student union. I asked, hey, are we going to have gender-neutral bathrooms here? They just looked at me like I was an alien that just landed from a different planet. One of the things that I always aggravates me is when I go back to Aldershot, which is where it's where my UK home base is in Aldershot. When I go back there, there is a cinema complex there that was created like 5 years ago, I think, maybe 10 now actually. I'm getting old. And it's got like basic restaurant chains like the Harvester and Toby's Carvery, and they have gender toilets. And I don't get the fucking why. Do you know why? All except for one of these toilets, and they have like 7 different doors, are all single stall bathroom units with their own running tap and everything. Only one of them has a toilet and a urinal. But they're gendered, and I don't get why. Like, why do they have to be gendered? They all feed into the same hallway with this door. But they're just gendered for no reason. Of course, the main argument surrounding bathrooms has been the same argument since 2015 and beyond that. I just remember it as 2015 because that's when it became a big thing with the Houston Hero Bill. For those who don't know, the Houston Hero Bill was a bill that was going to guarantee protection for various minority groups. One of the main focuses of the bill was veterans. Because that came up a lot in reporting about the fact that like it was being turned to this trans focusing because there was like one like allowance for trans people to use whichever bathroom like was in accordance with their gender. It was mostly about veterans and then a few rights for ethnic minorities and then different groups, and like they just went after it with campaigns showing like a guy breaking into a bathroom stall with a little girl. It's like, that's still illegal. That is still assault. You know, and that's just been the argument ever since. The whole idea that trans people are dangerous. And that's the narrative that has been taken for sports, for refugees, and for everywhere else. Trans women are dangerous. Trans women are coming to, you know, assault people.
I just want to take a second to say that I know, like, not a huge amount, but I do know a few, like, trans women, trans femme people, and all of them have assaulted a grand total of 0 people. It's kind of amazing.
Like, again, they don't mention trans people, but they talk about fear. And this is despite the fact that gender-neutral bathrooms do not have higher rates of assault than other bathrooms. Train says hi. This might have something to do with the fact that only 20% of assaults are carried out by someone that the person does not know previously. 80% of the time, it is someone the person knows. It's a family member, family friend, or an acquaintance. So, you know, the whole idea that bathrooms are these dangerous places, that's not really the case. For one, they're a high traffic area. People are constantly coming in and out of these areas. It's not like an alley somewhere. So if you're an assaulter, getting caught in those areas is very likely. And what some people say, well, they don't need to actually assault someone in the bathroom. They just want to go in there and set up like a camera in the bathroom stall, etc. Well, like, it's easy enough to buy overalls and pretend to be like a janitor or do that. Or, hey, you know, couples who do target strangers often work as couples. You get a man or a woman working together, and they help each other get what they want. Yes, the 80% statistic is horrific. I actually went back and I got that. It's actually 80.5. This is as of 2017. This comes from the Rape, Abuse and Incest National Network, which I need to go back to because I'd referenced their work previously with the Houston bill. I knew exactly. Actually, I'll just go use the same source, just see if they have an updated version, and they did so. But it just, the whole thing just sort of falls apart. Gender-neutral bathrooms are not any more dangerous. There are simple accommodations to do to make everything more secure. And really, all you're actually doing is doubling the foot traffic in an area, which decreases the. If you really want to take the whole idea of opportunism and everything like that comes from right realism, as it's called in sociology. Right realism and left realism are two opposing positions on crime and criminality. Right realism is the one that talks about opportunism. If someone sees an MP3 in the back of a car, they're going to go for it, sort of thing. And the same standards then apply to bathrooms, and that's what's being argued here. There is no opportunity here, or at least there's the least opportunity here. When we talk about other countries, because bathrooms can be dangerous in other places, very often that's because where the bathrooms are located, they are located out of town, in a dark area, sort of thing. With these, we're on about bathrooms in community centres and offices and places like that, places which have heavy footfall. The larger the bathroom, the more likely a person is going to come in and spot what's going on. So yes, there's no real opportunity there. Beyond that, another thing that this thing was getting at, the call for responses, was the idea that the another justification for binary bathrooms was the timing, specifically how male bathrooms have a faster turn rate on average. And it's looking at this and thinking about it, what it fails to acknowledge in a rather spectacular fashion, however, is the fact that in a gender-neutral bathroom, 100% of the cubicles can be used 100% of the time, irrespective of the gender composition of those inside. Simply add an additional space for urinals, marked clearly as such, and you can increase the overall efficiency of any bathroom far beyond that of binary ones without excluding parts of the population. I remember I used to do free tea and coffee at Tees, which is the LGBT plus night at our university. I used to do the free tea and coffee there, and sometimes I'd go to the loo, and I would notice the queue to the male bathroom was always shorter than the one to the female bathroom. We'd very often also change the signage of one of the bathrooms somewhere to be gender neutral, but without fail, the female bathroom queue was always longer. And as the thing mentions, people going through menopause, etc., they sometimes need to use the bathroom more regularly. Well, the way to help that is to increase the number of cubicles everyone can use.
Basically, what you want to do is you don't want to lock off a bunch of cubicles behind a men's bathroom door.
Mm-hmm.
Being used, because a lot of men would just use urinals.
Often I'd go into the bathroom and I do not use urinals, but I'd go in there this is peak time in the club, peak time, and there would be 3 of the 5 cubicles completely vacant. I was that's great for me, I'm going to use that cubicle. So again, the whole argument of, this is better for timing, no, it's not.
No.
Set up a space for urinals, okay? Mark it on the door as having urinals. And then
actually sorry, yeah. Just one. This reminds me of one thing that I've experienced with toilets, where there are two options for men's bathrooms. Either there are 5 cubicles and between 0 and one are being used at any one time,
Mhm.
or there's one single shitty cubicle that may or may not be blocked because some
Yeah.
jerk decided to fill it with toilet paper. And when that happens, when it's just the one cubicle in the men's bathroom, I am screwed because I cannot use the urinal. So, this is a problem for trans men in bathrooms where there's only like one cubicle. We will sometimes go in and just not be able to use the toilet. And it sucks. And if we had gender neutral bathrooms with a whole bunch of cubicles, that wouldn't happen.
But like, yeah, it's just.
Linda says there are a lot of cis men who strongly dislike
And that's
urinals
fair.
and only use them
That's fair.
when they're
They can.
and like that's fair, but I can't. I physically can't. I'd love to just be able to use the urinal if there were no other options, but I can't.
Yeah,
because I don't have an STP and I haven't had bottom surgery.
Yeah, I just can't do it. I can never do it. The exception is whilst camping, okay, and that's because the mosquitoes are always just waiting. But yeah. So this whole time argument doesn't work either. Like, getting 100% out of your cubicles is always going to be more efficient than just like.
Then
one side will be used 100% of the time, but the other side will only be used partially of the time. If you can move the people over, hey, you'll be able to use all of them. And there's also, like, again, this ridiculous notion of when I go to the Toby Carvery or the Harvester, this complex that I was on about, they are single stool bathrooms, like thick wooden doors, thicker than the doors here, they are all single with their own running tap, etc. They're all wheelchair accessible and everything because they did the whole push to be wheelchair accessible, and that's great. But they're gendered. Why? There's only one. Only one has a cubicle in it. Not cubicle. Only one has a urinal in it as well, and I don't know why. It's just like, yeah. Needlessly gendered bathrooms are just one of those pet peeves that just really boggles the mind. And like coming here as well, like it's the same thing. They will have at restaurants a male and a female bathroom, and they'll only have one toilet in, except the male one also has a urinal. And I just don't get why. It's just, yeah. Now, one of the things the commission asked, was stating about that, is the fact that these bathrooms need to be marked clearly.
Hang on, sorry. Before we move on, can we just so we talked about how part of the issue with the menstruation thing is that we teach cis boys that to be uncomfortable with it and to treat it like, and we tell everyone really to treat it like it's a taboo.
Yeah.
And in a similar vein, this whole thing. Maya, I think, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name right. Maya says that there were high school comedies back in the 80s that featured trope guys cross-dressing to peek on girls in bathrooms or changing rooms or in the pool. And I realized this thing of if we have gender-neutral bathrooms, or if we let people use the bathroom of their gender rather than one of the sex they're assigned at birth, this means people are going to use that to spy on women, right?
They don't need to. They've got so many opportunities. And society does nothing about abusers. That's the thing. Sorry.
I realize, it makes no sense to blame trans people. We should be blaming society for teaching cis boys and cis men that, spying on girls is funny, or something they should want to do, and normalizing this predatory behavior. Because
Linda's right, by the way. It doesn't even happen. It's complete fiction. And the organization linked to the Christian Post, if I remember correctly, come out and just flat out said we invented the bathroom myth to avoid a prolonged battle over trans rights by presenting this as a predator issue. But you are right in that even if it were true, hypothetically, the idea of punishing trans people for the actions of cis people is disgusting.
That too, but it's like this isn't a biological issue anyway. It's a societal issue. It's like we teach boys to do this sort of thing, and we teach society to accept it. And maybe if we didn't do that, it wouldn't be so much of a problem.
We have a lot of
Anyway,
problems
sorry.
we need to tackle. No, it's nothing to be sorry for, but the fact is, gender-neutral bathrooms, study after study, just like study after study into SRE, etc., has shown they're not dangerous. They do not do what the far right claims they do. They are safe. They just don't
The
care.
thing is, they already exist in a lot of places.
Again, that's the thing. The studies find time and time again there's no impact. Excuse me. Now, one thing I'd like to note is that some people have pointed out the idea that this won't impact the trans community because, again, it acknowledges the gender reassignment thing. The problem there is it's still operating under a binary, which is still going to impact certain people. Most notably, all non-binary folk. Suddenly, they don't have an option of a gender-neutral bathroom. And yeah, okay, there are already so few gender-neutral bathrooms in the frigging UK. There's more gender-neutral changing rooms, is something I've noticed, because at swimming places, it seems to be a thing that was very popular in Europe, and we sort of imported it more recently. They have those, you go into a general changing room area, then you got private stalls and family stalls, which are just bathroom cubicles that you bolt, but they're slightly larger and have places so you can put your clothes or hang up your jacket whilst you change into your swimming gear. It's we sort of imported that, but when it comes to bathrooms, I'm trying to think of how many gender-neutral bathrooms I've actually visited in the UK. I don't know if I actually have seen any. Apart from the one we set up in Tees by going to, cause there are several sets of gendered bathrooms in Tees, which again, the LGBT plus night at our university's union club, we used to change a couple of them to gender neutral. That's the only gender neutral bathrooms in the UK I can fucking think of. Apart from the generic, we're a small building, we have a single bathroom you can use. Those are the only times I can think of, except at home as well. So yeah, and they're fighting against gender neutral bathrooms when they're not even that prevalent already. So pretty much it just seems like they're trying to remove all of them. On top of this, butch women, which is going to be disproportionately lesbians due to queer culture, as well as the openness in gender exploration once you're part of the queer community, they're going to be targeted a lot, as gender policing, which is the whole basis of this, is relying on outdated gender markers, which are no longer the case, We've seen this in the US where, gender non-conforming cis women have been assaulted by police and even just passers-by, and a lot of these people actually came out and talked, they've been seeing an uptick in abuse since the whole trans hysteria has been going on. Things are getting worse for lesbians thanks to anti-trans rhetoric as well. So they're going to suffer as a result of this, even if it doesn't touch whether or not trans people can use these bathrooms. And then we have parents of older children of a different gender, some of whom may require additional assistance for a variety of different reasons. I remember sometimes me and my brother would go out with our mum, and because again I was a small child, I didn't know what trans was, etc. I thought I was a boy, even though I didn't quite get everything. And my brother is just a cis guy. She's a single mother, and we're too old, we're too young still to be allowed to go off anywhere on our own. But at the same time, we're too old that it's getting uncomfortable to go into a certain bathroom. being put in that sort of awkward situation can be quite troubling. Like, and it's just like it's gender neutral is the easiest way around that. On top of
I
this,
have
it gets rid of the whole, oh, there's only baby changing stations in women's bathrooms. What message is that sending all the women that see that, or the little girls that see that?
wait. Is that how it works in the UK?
I believe they are trying, like they have been changing it more recently, but a lot of outdated bathrooms, yeah, they only have changing stations for like babies in women's bathrooms,
Over here,
or they're put in the disabled toilets, which yeah,
over here we've got a separate parents' room. It didn't occur to me.
we don't have separate parents' rooms. I've never seen one. I've only seen again, sometimes they put it in the disabled toilet, but most of the time they only have them in the women's toilets.
That's gross.
And it's just like, it reinforces patriarchy by telling women that it's their job, and it's fucking awkward if you're, an old cis guy with a child who needs to change them. Like,
Yeah.
And all of these issues can just be done away with gender neutral toilets.
Yeah. Sorry. I got a couple of stories about a parent with like an older child who needs assistance because of course my older brother is disabled in a lot of ways, and once there was a huge fiasco because we weren't allowed to use a family changing room, just because for some reason the person on the shop floor decided it was prams only.
Yeah.
Which isn't quite the same issue, but like if there were no family changing room, it would be the same issue. And that was really annoying. But one time, my brother actually got into a fight because my dad left us unattended because it would have been awkward to take me into the men's toilet. I nearly got into like a really violent fight, and a racist one at that. So like messing around with disability can create some really, really messed up situations.
Yeah. It really does. And the whole way that like this is presenting as if it's solving an issue when there is no issue, it's really disgusting because there are genuine problems with how the bathroom system in the UK operates, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. If they merged the two bathrooms together, they'd also have more room to work with, which means they can make things more accessible in a general bathroom. It's just, they don't seem to care about that. It's just, and the whole flipping reason we have gendered bathrooms in the first place, like public bathrooms did not used to be gendered when they were first created. The only reason they became gendered is because the British upper class were not happy with the idea of upper class white women being in the same bathrooms as working class men because they might get up to some funny business. Like, it was literally like a class issue. The whole idea that they're going to run off, and do some stuff that's not quite up to the standards of a upper class woman. That was the issue. It was the whole class thing. And then it just sort of leaked everywhere else. Anyway, I think we've discussed... Oh, there's one more point, of course. Yes. We Exist London. Go find them on Twitter. They put together an email template which you can go and find in the... Train says hi. You can go find in the notes for the show down below. It's linked in blue where it says email template. If you click that, it has a template. You can copy it, edit parts, add your own experiences with bathrooms. It notes various statistics, etc., such as how 48% of trans folk in the UK don't feel comfortable using public bathrooms, it brings all this together. You can copy that, edit it, and please do send it off to toilets@communities.gov.uk if you are a UK citizen, of course. And the reason I have to tell you to do this is because there is no doubt, even though trans people were not mentioned in this, that the TERF Brigade is going to be spamming the hell out of this consultation. Because if they can make it seem like there's an issue where there isn't one, well then the government might take more aggressive actions against the trans community. So those of you in the UK who are watching, please do follow that link, get that template, or write your own template if you'd like. Do whatever you feel that you can do. That template's just there for accessibility, and send it off to the email, which is again noted in the notes and links of the video. All this can be accessed at the under topics. It says notes and sources. There is a link in the video description, so you've got all that there.